just real quickly, I talked in the previous segment about how successful the Saratoga, the Belmont at Aqueduct at Saratoga Stars and Stripes Festival was over the weekend. They handled over $83 million for the 4 days, which is in just 44 races. That's almost $2 million per race. Compare that to last year at Aqueduct. Now, they only ran 38 races last year at Aqueduct at the same time period, but they handled less than 38 million. So you're looking at a 121% increase in handle year over year just from the venue change pretty much. Yeah. But I got to say, the previous year, which was the last year it was held at the old Belmont, they did handle 76 million. There were 6 more races, but it did do pretty well. Right. I'm very, very curious to see when the new Belmont is built. I guess it's not going to be ready for next year's July 4th festival. It'll have to be 2027, but how that stacks up, because I think a lot of credit has to be given to NYRA and the way they organized this and the way they promoted it to have it be so successful. And I can't wait to see what those numbers are like at Belmont. I hope they're similarly strong, or is this just a Saratoga anomaly and people will bet 2 cockroaches racing if it's at Saratoga? Right. So stay tuned. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Do you feel like the dollar hot dog had anything to do with it?
I mean, but the attendance numbers weren't. The attendance numbers weren't huge, so I don't think that has anything to do. Like, I don't know. Maybe there's some people, but I don't know a lot of people that are like, well, I got this dollar hot dog. Yeah. Now I'm going to bet more.
No, I think it was more like, should I spend $10 on a hot dog or bet on this race? And now it's, I got a dollar hot dog. I got $9 extra to bet on this race.
That's what I just said. It's literally what I just said.
I gave it a better example. I gave it color.
You were like, if Johnny has $10 and a hot dog costs $1, how many dollars does he have left to bet on the races?
I love seeing the tweets of the guys walking up there, and there's one screen that shows the $50 bill on the table, and there's another screen of this guy walking out with 50 hot dogs in the box.
That's so good. I love that. And I love, minor league baseball teams got to do stuff like this to bring people to the ballpark. I love little things like that, or like an ice cream eating contest, like just stuff, festive things that help people, save a little bit of money or have a little bit more fun. Like, there's no reason that racetracks all across the country shouldn't be doing that. I know a lot of them are. Yeah. And Saratoga, I like seeing to jump into that pool. So yeah, it was way more successful than it would have been at Aqueduct. And I'm curious to see when we do open the new Belmont, if we can carry that momentum to Belmont and then into Saratoga. One other story we wanted to mention. This broke, of course, as things do, an hour after we recorded last week. Yep. Fasig-Tipton announced that there are major changes upcoming to the Midlantic May 2-year-old undertax show. We talked about this a bunch at this year's Midlantic sale, where the weather really kind of threw things in flux and made them adjust on the fly, and to the point where the final breeze show, the final session of the breeze show, was conducted with no timed works. Now it was supposed to be a gallop only sale, and those were some of the fastest gallops I've ever seen in my life. Right. But regardless, it kind of set the stage for what a lot of people have been talking about for a little while now in the 2-year-old sales, about moving towards more gallops and less crazy fast works. And Fasig came out with the announcement that starting next year in the Midlantic sale, all undertax show performances are going to be untimed. Fasig is not going to officially clock breezes. Now, you're going to have private clockers, of course, and Bloodstock agents who are going to be clocking themselves. So that doesn't mean that nobody's going to be breezing and nobody's going to be all out. They also mentioned that they were going to restrict use of the riding crop, similar to some of the rules that they tried to implement a few years ago, that riders can carry a crop for safety purposes but can't strike the horse during workouts. I don't see any problem with that. There's no reason for a rider to be whipping a horse in a sail breeze. There just isn't, because it's not like a race where you need that little extra oomph sometimes to beat another horse to the wire. This is just them by themselves, and if they can't do it fast enough without the whip, they're not going to do it fast enough with the whip. So I'm fully in favor of that, and I think this is a huge kind of flag to plant for Fasig, where it's not, it's still going to be about how fast the horses go, but I think it's going to be more about how they look and how they're going fast and how they gallop and how they move. And I think that that's something that the industry is eventually, it's going to take a while, but eventually is going to move more towards, because it's a lot of stress to put horses under, to make them go a furlong in 9-3 or 20-2 or a quarter in 20-2 or whatever this early in their development, and it just intuitively does not feel to me like it's great for the horses. That doesn't mean that the people that are doing it like out of cruelty or anything like that. This is just the way the business has been conducted for a really long time, and you want to see the horses go fast. They're going to have to go fast on the racetrack at some point, but I just think it's gotten too far too far focused on the actual times and not enough focused on how the horses move and then how they bounce out of the sale as well. So that's something that I think is going to be a major, major push and a major shift in this industry. And I think that, Sandman was a big part of that too. Yes, the fact that Sandman sold for $1.2 million just galloping, I thought that was a seismic move in the auction business and the 2-year-old auction business. And the fact that he's gone on to be successful has shown that is at least viable for some buyers. Jon, you've been shopping at 2-year-old sales with Len for a long time. Like, I know you guys have bought a lot of different horses that have gone a lot of different speeds. I'm just curious, just in general, what you think about this push and this move by Fasig.
I think that they're reading the tea leaves, and I think that they're recognizing a couple of things. Number one, you mentioned Sandman kind of as the poster child of a horse that galloped only, that sold for a lot, and that subsequently had really successful racing career so far early on in his life. That's number one. Number two is that at OBS, when they had the gallop only, they had, I want to say it was 11 horses that took advantage of it. It may be a couple here or there, plus or minus. But like 70-something% of them got sold and changed hands, which meant that there was an appetite for it, for horses that were gallop. I'm not saying that all of them should gallop, but that there were certain groups, us included, that said that we would lean more towards buying a horse if it galloped, versus just a flat out, breeze. But we, again, have the ability to kind of buy in a couple different, tranches, so we can buy horses that breeze, buy horses that gallop, et cetera. And I think that the unfortunate incident that occurred when a horse broke its front legs, at the Fasig under tax show, and they very alertly and astutely said, you know what, we're not going to have time breezes anymore. And their averages not only stayed the same, but went up. I think they recognize that there's an appetite by a lot of groups. Again, we didn't buy anything at that sale, but Rapoli did. A couple other big buyers did. I think Resolute even came out and said that they would be more inclined to buy horses that had a gallop as opposed to a breeze. But there's enough bigger buyers in the industry that have an appetite for it and are looking for horses that maybe aren't being pressed as hard. Now, I know from being on the board at OBS, there's all kinds of statistics that show that horses that breeze fast run fast. Okay. And I understand the numbers. I understand the statistics. And I think that there's definitely an argument to be made that if you have a fast horse, whether it's a fast gallop like Sandman or it's a fast breeze, that horsemen are going to be astute enough to recognize those kind of horses. I mean, the old Stevie Wonder could pick out that horse, that comment about a good horse. And look, let's face it. If I can make the argument, I think that if Ewing didn't breeze as fast as he did, there's no way that our two groups get together and try to buy him for $585,000. It's just not going to happen. So you have to show something on the racetrack, and you have to show that the horse has ability on the racetrack. So that's never going to go away. But I think Fasig recognized that there's a niche in this market. And again, they only sell a small amount of the grand scheme of things of 2-year-olds overall. But I think they're recognizing that to differentiate themselves and for the safety of the horses, they are willing to have their 1 2-year-old sale be an untimed gallop show. I think those are all really great things. Joe, I will add one more piece of the puzzle, I think, that's important. And that is, from a HISA standpoint, they have jurisdiction over the facilities that publish breezes. Okay. So in other words, if you have a horse that is on the vets list, or you have a horse that hasn't run in a certain period of time and you need to have a breeze in order to make them eligible to race, you can go to one of these facilities, one of the centers that HISA has purview over, and breeze a horse, have it be published, and have that count, register it and have it count towards the horse's racing career, and therefore enable him to do it. There's an argument to be made that these under tax shows are published breezes, okay? Not necessarily by definition in the sense of they're published in the racing form, but there's an argument. I'm not saying it's good or bad. There's an argument that says that if these horses are breezing and it shows up on the tote board and it's in all the results, and you can go on the website, you can see a horse breeze a furlong or two, that maybe HISA would have jurisdiction over those breezes and over those horses. Well, that opens up a whole nother can of worms as far as I'm concerned, because I don't think, again, I'm speaking for myself, I don't think that the sales companies want to be under that kind of additional scrutiny if they don't have to. And that may be part of the reason why they're going to have untimed breezes. I don't think it's the tail wagging the dog. I don't think it's the reason, but I think that it has to be discussed and considered in the grand scheme of things, because it kind of allows them to bypass being under a different entity.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And yeah, like we don't want to be hypocrites. We, like you said, we bought Ewing partly because he went so fast. Yeah. And I'm not saying there's not a place for that. I just think that this is another big step in the right direction to having it just be less hyper focused on the time. Right. I'm not saying that the time that a horse goes an eighth of a mile or a quarter of a mile is not fast, because as you mentioned, fast horses on the breeze show a lot of times become fast horses on the racetrack. But I think we need to get away from everybody, having the star eyes emoji and losing their mind when a horse goes 20-2, right, when you don't know what's under the surface and what had to be done to get to that 20-2 or 20-1 breeze. So I think that this is a very important step. And, like I said, people are still going to breeze horses, mm-hmm, and they're just going to time it privately. But when you don't have the official stamp of approval from the sales company that is conducting the sale, I think that will make at least some people take a step back and evaluate more the physical of the horse rather than just the clocking.